You're sitting in the driver's seat of your Porsche 911. You look down at the dashboard, and there it is. That final mile clicks over. 6 figures, 100,000 miles. For most car owners, this is the moment of panic. It's the moment you think the value of your pride and joy has just fallen off a cliff. You imagine the trade-in value evaporating as the clock ticks past that psychological barrier. You start thinking about every rock chip, every seat bolster crease, and every mechanical groan as a sign that your investment is bleeding out. But you aren't driving a most car, you're driving a Porsche 911. In the world of high-performance sports cars, the 911 is an anomaly. While a high-mileage Ferrari, Lamborghini, or Aston Martin can be a financial bloodbath, the 911 often shrugs off mileage milestones like they're nothing more than a routine oil change. In fact, there is a very real argument to be made that adding miles to your 911 hasn't ruined its value at all. It's just transitioned it into a different, more resilient asset class. Today, we're going to look at the cold, hard data. We're going to talk about why the 911 has the lowest depreciation in the entire automotive industry, why the Mezger engine is a 200,000-mile tank, and how you can strategically leverage what we call the mileage myth to actually enjoy your car without fearing the resale. We're going to dismantle the fear of the 100K mark and prove that the real ruin of a Porsche isn't the distance it travels, but the neglect it suffers when it sits too still. Let's start with the math, because the numbers don't lie. Most people expect sports cars to lose their value the second they leave the lot. For a Mercedes S-Class or a BMW M5, that's usually true. But according to massive market studies, the Porsche 911 has the lowest 5-year depreciation rate of any model in the United States. While the industry average for cars losing their value over 5 years sits at a staggering 46.5%, the 911 loses only 19.5%. Think about that. It beats out the Toyota Tacoma, the Chevrolet Corvette, and even the Jeep Wrangler in value retention. It is the #1 vehicle in America for holding its value.
Mathematically, the relationship between age T and residual value V for a 911 follows a much flatter curve than its competitors. While a standard luxury vehicle might follow a steep exponential decay function, V of T equals PE to the negative KT with a high decay constant K, the 911's K value is remarkably low. We can express the market price M at any given time as M of T equals P times 1 minus D to the T plus alpha. In this equation, P is your original purchase price, D is the annual depreciation, which for a 911 is a tiny 3 to 5%, and alpha is what we call the collector premium.
This premium represents the extra value added by rare specifications, paint-to-sample colors, or pristine service record. In some wild cases, like we saw in the post-pandemic market, the value of alpha was actually higher than the depreciation, meaning people were driving their cars for years and selling them for a profit. If the car as a whole holds value so well, why are we so terrified of the odometer? To understand mileage, you have to understand the generation you're driving. The 911 history is split by the year 1999, the transition from air-cooled to water-cooled engines. This is the biggest inflection point in the car's history. In the air-cooled era, everything from the 1964 originals to the legendary 993, mileage is viewed through the lens of mechanical maintenance cycles. These engines are incredibly robust, but they have a shelf life for certain components. Between 100,000 and 120,000 miles, an air-cooled 911 typically needs what's called a top-end rebuild. This addresses worn valve guides and aging gaskets that start to weep oil. Here is the irony. In the collector market, a 1978 911 SC with 252,000 miles still hammer for nearly $40,000 on Bring a Trailer. If mileage ruined value, that car would be worth scrap. Instead, it's worth the price of a brand new Miata. Now move into the water-cooled era, the 996, 997, 911, and the current 992.
These cars were engineered for precision, tighter manufacturing tolerances, and better thermal stability. Because water cooling keeps cylinder temperatures consistent, these engines can handle the rigors of a daily commute, stop-and-go traffic, and varying climates much better than the old air-cooled units. They are designed to be used as real cars, not just weekend toys. We can't talk about high-mileage, water-cooled Porsches without talking about the IMS bearing. This affected the 996 and early 997 models from 1999 to 2008. It's the boogeyman of the Porsche world, but when it comes to high mileage, the boogeyman isn't actually that scary. Here's the secret about high-mileage cars and the IMS. If a car has made it to 100,000 miles, it is often a safer bet than a low-mileage garage queen. Why? Because the IMS bearing failure is frequently linked to oil degradation and moisture buildup in cars that sit for long periods. A car that has been driven regularly has had its bearing constantly lubricated and heated, preventing the internal grease from breaking down. More importantly, most high-mileage 996 and 997s on the market have already had the IMS retrofit or the IMS solution installed. Specialists will tell you that once that preventative fix is done, usually costing between $2,000 and $3,500, the car is effectively bulletproof. So if you're looking at a 110,000-mile 997 with a documented IMS fix, you aren't buying a liability. You're buying a car that someone else has already perfected. You're reaping the rewards of their proactive maintenance. If you want to talk about intergalactic mileage, we have to talk about the Mezger engine. This is the gold standard of durability. Found in the 996 and 997 variants of the Turbo, GT3, and GT2, this engine uses a crankcase and bottom end derived from Porsche's GT1 Le Mans race car. The Mezger doesn't have an IMS bearing to fail. It uses a gear-driven system and an oiling design that is meant for sustained high RPM abuse on the racetrack. It is not uncommon to see these engines exceed 200,000 miles with nothing more than regular oil changes and valve adjustments. In the GT3 market, the value penalty for mileage is remarkably small compared to almost any other supercar. Because these cars are emotional scalpels, purchased for the 9,000 RPM scream and the mechanical connection, enthusiasts care more about whether the car was maintained by a specialist than what the odometer says. A 100,000-mile GT3 that has been meticulously cared for by a shop like Sharkworks can still command a massive six-figure price. Compare that to the Turbo S, which is often called the technological hammer. Turbo S values are driven by being the peak of current technology. When a newer, faster model comes out, the older Turbo S tends to take a bigger depreciation hit than the nostalgic GT3, because its primary value, being the fastest thing on the road, has been eclipsed. The GT3, meanwhile, stays valuable because its experience is irreproducible.
This brings us to the most important concept for any 911 owner: identifying your car's tier. You have to know what game you're playing. The 911 market is bifurcated. On one side, you have collector-grade assets. These are the 918 Spyders, the 997 GT2 RS, the 911R, and the 1989 G50 Turbos. For these cars, high mileage does ruin the value. They are purchased as financial instruments, and every mile added is like burning a $100 bill. A pristine 930 Turbo might trade for $450,000, but as soon as you put 50,000 miles on it, it moves into a different bracket. But for the rest of us, driving driver-grade assets, these standard Carreras, Targas, and even daily-driven turbos, the rules are different. For these cars, high mileage is expected and, to a certain degree, welcomed. The entry price is lower, but the depreciation floor is much more stable. Market data shows that while there is a price delta between a 30,000-mile car and a 100,000-mile car, the depreciation curve flattens significantly after the 100,000-mile mark. A 2006 Carrera S with 46,000 miles might sell for $52,550, while a 90,000-mile example might still fetch high 30,000s or low 40,000s. That's a remarkably small price to pay for 50,000 miles of memories. You've already taken the biggest hit. From here on out, the car is yours to enjoy.
If the odometer isn't the primary driver of value for a driver-grade 911, what is it? The answer is the service story. In the Porsche community, a documented service history is worth more than a low-mileage reading. A high-mileage 911 with a thick binder of invoices is actually a safer buy than a low-mileage 911 with a blank service book. Think about the components that wear out. These are called consumables. A 911 with 120,000 miles that has just had its dampers, control arms, and clutch replaced is a superior driving machine than a 60,000-mile car that is still riding on original, tired suspension bushings. When you go to sell your high-mileage 911, the buyer isn't going to look at the odometer and walk away. They're going to look at that binder. If they see you've been proactive, using Porsche-approved oils, performing PDK services every 60,000 miles, and inspecting the cooling system expansion tanks, they will pay a premium. They're looking for evidence that the car has been loved rather than just owned. A documented history proves the car has been looked after, and that potential costly issues have been addressed before they became catastrophic failures.
Let's look at the total cost of ownership. Owning a 911 is an investment, but not driving it is an expense in its own right. If you own a standard Carrera, your 5-year maintenance and repair estimate is around $5,380. If you own a GT3, that number jumps to about $9,477. Now, compare that to the cost of insurance, which can run $24,000 over 5 years, or the interest on a loan, which can exceed $25,000. When you add up the fixed costs, insurance, storage, financing, the cost per mile of actually driving the car is surprisingly low. For a standard 911, the depreciation penalty for adding 10,000 miles a year is often less than the annual cost of the insurance policy. In other words, you've already paid the Porsche tax just by having the car in your garage. You might as well get the Porsche joy by driving it. Every mile you don't drive is a mile the next owner is going to enjoy for a discount you provided. We often talk about the risks of high mileage, but we rarely talk about the risks of low mileage. This is what specialists call standing damage. When a 911 sits for months or years in a garage, seals begin to harden and dry out, fluids oxidize, brakes can seize, rodents can find their way into the wiring harnesses and chew through thousands of dollars of electronics. Perhaps most importantly for the water-cooled cars, the IMS bearing grease can settle and promote corrosion. A car that has been 100,000 miles is a car that has been exercised. Its seals have been kept supple by oil circulation. Its battery has been kept charged by the alternator. Its tires have been kept round by motion. In many ways, the driver car is mechanically fresher than the garage queen that looks perfect but hasn't moved in 3 years. This is why the stigma surrounding high mileage is fading. The data shows the inherent durability of the flat 6 platform.
The ultimate truth of the 911 is that it's a car that gets better as you understand it. Most performance cars fade once the novelty wears off, but a 911 deepens as your knowledge of its mechanical quirks grows. There's a legendary story of a Singaporean doctor who owns a 1992 Carrera RS. That car has covered over 315,000 miles. He maintains it meticulously, he washes it by hand, and he treats the collector value as an abstract number that has nothing to do with him. To him, the car is an identity-defining tool. It's the car that still works when life gets full. You can drive it to dinner, take it on a trip, and use it for the daily grind without feeling like you're bringing a circus tent with you. When you shift your mindset from how much will this be worth at auction to how many sunrises can I see from this cockpit, the fear of mileage disappears. The stigma of high mileage is a myth that smart buyers are now leveraging to buy newer, more reliable models with higher miles for the same price as older, less reliable cars. So, did you ruin your 911's value? If you neglected it, if you skipped the oil changes, or if you let it rot in a moist garage, then yes, you might have. But if you drove it, if you redlined it, and if you kept a meticulous record of every nut and bolt that was turned, then you haven't ruined anything.
The Porsche 911 is one of the few machines on Earth that shrugs off market swings and aging mileage. It's an asset that was designed to be used. A car with 100,000 miles and a documented history of passionate care is a chronicle of reliability, and in the eyes of a true enthusiast, that is worth more than any number on a digital display. The true ruin of a 911 is neglect, not distance. So stop worrying about the odometer, grab the keys, and go put another 1,000 miles on it. Your car and your soul will thank you for it. Thanks for watching. If you're a high-mileage hero, drop your odometer reading in the comments below. Let's show the world that these cars are meant to be driven. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of Porsche. See you in the next one.